Hey guys, Eric Hansen here with Backpacking TV and Epic Trails, and we're doing something new here. We're taking questions that were coming off the YouTube channel and we're answering them right here for you in our new subscriber question series. Rato Bauman asks, how do you get rid of smoke smell from your clothes and your gear? Good question. Mostly, I just resign myself to smell bad, but if you don't want to do that, one of the things I definitely recommend is every time you finish up with a backpacking trip, no matter where you're going, especially if you're sitting around a campfire, leave your sleeping bag, your tent, whatever it is, and just open it up and just leave it in your backyard, leave it in your garage, opened up for a few days, and let other air just kind of move through, especially your sleeping bag. Your body stinks when you camp, and just letting your sleeping bag especially breathe, but also making sure that you don't do things like pack your wet tent or anything that had dew or moisture or condensation on it like that. Just sit in your garage now all packed up for the next 6 months until you take it out again, because that is a really good way to make sure that your gear will always smell bad. For jackets, especially with jackets, that's what's really going to smell the worst after sitting around a campfire. I'll do the same thing. I'll leave it out in my backyard, just drape it over a chair or something like that for multiple days at a time. And if it still smells really bad, if it gets to a really extreme point, I'll throw it in the wash. Now with down jackets, especially, you have to take precautions. I really wouldn't wash or worry about things like hard shells. I just don't wash those. Down jackets, take some special care, get the right soap. You can screw that up if you use just a regular detergent, and then make sure that you are using a front-loading washer and a front-loading dryer, and making sure that that down is not clumping up and then not having a residue effect with the soap. So I do that maybe once a year, really, with my down jackets. I don't really want to do it more than that. I would rather just have a smelly jacket than risk wrecking my jacket. I got another question. Can you sleep in your sleeping bag without using a tent? And the answer is, of course. I do that all the time. In fact, I am lucky that I live here in the Southwest, where it's often dry. There's not a lot of bugs, so every opportunity I can get, I don't use a tent. I love sleeping out under the stars and just being able to stargaze all night. So what do? I think that some of the considerations for if you do that are more environmental than economic. So I'm looking for things like, what's the weather going to be like? If there's a chance of rain, I'll sleep in a tent. If it's going to be really windy, I'll sleep in a tent. And then if there's a lot of bugs or things that I don't want getting in my sleeping bag, sleeping in Australia where there's tons of poisonous spiders and lethal snakes, maybe I'll try to sleep in a tent there. However, any other time I can get away with it, I'll totally just carry my tent with me in case I need it for environmental reasons, but otherwise I'll just sleep out under the stars. Got another question about packing your bag. So Sierra Hill asks, do you have any tips on packing your backpack? Do you just stuff gear in? Do you just stuff clothes in? Do you fold it? What do you do? So really, for packing a backpack, I think that's going to need a whole separate dedicated video. But just as a quick answer to that, I think that the main thing is wanting to fit everything inside your pack. Don't have a junk show where you're attaching stuff all over on the outside of your pack. You got pots and pans swinging around, and don't do that. Fit everything in your pack. But then as a general recommendation, start with the bottom. Put your sleeping bag in the bottom. That makes a nice base, and it tends to sit below your butt in a good spot for where that weight should be situated. And then from there, you're basically on top of that sleeping bag, you're putting your heaviest stuff and you're layering up on top of that lighter things as you go. So typically food, water, fuel, those are the heavier types of things. Lighter things are clothes, and those fit in nicely around the rest of the gear and hold that into place. So I'll typically roll up clothes and then stuff those in the little cracks and spots that I can to make my backpack as efficient as possible. So there will be in the future a whole other video on just packing your backpack and running through everything that you'd ever want to know, but hopefully that's a quick little primer for that question. Another champion of Backpacking TV asks, Do you ever use a compression sack or a dry sack for your sleeping bag? And the answer is definitely yes. I use them all the time. I do sometimes just use the whatever bag, the small stuff sack that your sleeping bag comes in from the store. However, I do think that there's a lot of good reasons to use a compression sack or a dry sack. I actually prefer to use a dry sack. Some compression sacks double as dry sacks, is where they will actually keep moisture and rain and environmental factors, keep your bag dry in case you get dunked in a river or something like that. But I can kind of accomplish the same thing with a dry bag, with a dry sack. And somebody like Sea to Summit makes some really light ones that I really like as well. And then I can stuff the sleeping bag in that and then roll it up and compress all that extra air out. And then if I ever am hiking by a river or something like that and I fall or slip in, I know that my sleeping bag is going to be okay and going to be dry. And that is kind of like my last line of defense, my last line of safety, is having a dry sleeping bag that I can get into at the end of the day in case things are going crazy, you got a big storm or something like that. So absolutely, I definitely use those. I highly recommend them, and they can be used for a lot of things. So if you're at camp and then you have taken your sleeping bag out, having a dry sack around for other purposes is really handy as well. So totally, absolutely recommend using dry sacks and compression sacks for your sleeping bag. It's not a must. You can totally get away with just the regular stuff sack from REI or whatever, but that is something that is a great piece of gear to use. Okay, that is just the first set of questions that I've kind of pulled from a few that have been popping up over the last little bit here on YouTube. But I invite you guys, please ask questions. We've got more stuff to talk about. We've got an infinite amount of stuff to talk about, but sometimes I don't know specifically what you want to know. So please ask questions below, leave them here on this video and I'll get to them. And then the next topic of the video is going to be all about water filtration, purification, and what to do with water. So make sure that you are subscribing and liking these videos. And of course, if you have questions, leave them below. It'll give me a good idea of what kind of videos you guys want and what questions I can tackle that you really need to know. So thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.